It's a trucking, transportation, and lifestyle show like none other.
Man, you call this a life?
Road Gang Radio is back for another half hour of the best transpo show in the known universe.
We come in peace. Well, actually, we're falling to pieces.
Let's see if we can achieve liftoff, Phone Master Dre.
Lifting off from Franklin to NOLA, this is Road Gang Radio, of course, with Lindsay Lawler and Jimmy Mack.
Hey, quick piece of news before we get to this next guest. Some very sad news, actually, that just came out for my Dallas Cowboys. Not sad that we suck, different kind of sad, actual sad. The Dallas Cowboys defensive end, Marshawn Nealon, died early this morning. He was only 24, tragically died. They have not said the cause yet. He was a second-round pick out of Western Michigan last year. This is the guy, but this is the defensive end that Monday night against the Cardinals, Jim. He is the one that recovered the blocked punt in the end zone for his first career touchdown, and the Cowboys lost, by the way, against the Arizona Cardinals. But he was the one that recovered that blocked kick in the end zone, scored. He leaves behind his girlfriend and family. They have not said what happened yet, but I just really quickly want to read the statement from his agent, who is also a very dear friend of his, that he put on Instagram. He said, "I'm shattered to confirm that my client and dearest friend in the world, Marshawn Nealon, passed away early this morning. I watched him fight his way from a hopeful kid at Western Michigan with a dream to being a respected professional for the Dallas Cowboys. Marshawn poured his heart into every snap, every practice, and every moment on the field. And to lose someone with his talent, spirit, and goodness is a pain I can hardly put into words." Bummer. 24 years old, Marshawn Nealon. Rest in peace, my friend.
It weighs heavy because, the thing is that when you get young men playing football, when you get anybody playing professional, this applies to everybody, but it really hits home because it's a reminder of how many children and I say child because there are a lot of people who are older who still look at him as a child. It's heartbreaking because we know how many people carried hopes and dreams, how many people made sacrifices to get him to that moment.
Yeah.
I mean, plenty of people who had stage moms and stage dads. Not all of them were awful. Not all of them were like, helicopter
Some had
parents.
the right intention.
Some had the absolute right intentions. And because the child very early on figured out, I love football, I love singing, I love being on the stage, I have a dream very early on. And the parents went, okay, buckle up, here we go. And a lot of people, a community often it takes to put a child into a position where they can be drafted by the NFL or they can make a young debut at the Ryman or something like that. We often, we get so resentful of people's success, but we remember there's a lot of people who made a lot of sacrifices often to get them there. So our heart breaks for all of those people on this day and the entire Dallas Cowboys community at large. It's incredibly sad, and it hurt. I don't know why, in particular, thinking about it that way really hurts my heart, Lindsay. I'm sorry about that.
A lot of people are at a loss today because of that, for sure.
So let me do something here. Can I shift you over with some music, and we can actually put a little piece of music here?
Great. I thought you'd never ask.
And we'll do that here, and to get you and get us all into a mood to kind of welcome our next wonderful guest.
Let's go. All right, welcome back to Road Gang Radio. Our next guest arrives, Jim, at a perfect time as I realized yesterday, I'm like, okay, it's November 6th today, but the holidays are upon us. We are there. I'm already thinking about meals for Thanksgiving and Christmas and New Year's and my birthday and my daughter's birthday and your birthday. It's like, we are in it. We are in it. We're in the thick of it. And I need new meal recipe ideas. So our next guest arrives at a perfect time. Linda Lee is joining us. She's a best-selling author and travel-loving cooking enthusiast. She's got a brand new book called The Route 66 Cookbook, arriving just in time also for the official 100th anniversary. 100th anniversary of America's most iconic highway. Get your kicks, Jim, on Route 66. The book celebrates the Mother Road with 66 inspired recipes gathered from diners, drive-ins, fine dining spots, and hidden gems that line Route 66 from Chicago to Santa Monica, from classic burgers to pie dishes influenced by German, Mexican, Indigenous traditions. The Route 66 cookbook, it's both a culinary road trip, Jim, and also a love letter to American culture, which I love. That just makes me feel cozy and happy. It reminds us it's not always about the destination, but the flavor and connection we find along the journey. You can learn more at gardenbetty.com. So please make welcome to the show our new friend, Miss Linda Lee. Good morning, friend.
Good morning.
Hi. Well, you sound lovely.
Are you on the road currently right now, or are you actually safely at home, having gone through all the trips and tribulations?
Are you currently getting your kicks,
goodness.
or are you on the couch?
I am at home. I just sent my kids off to school, so
too.
I'm ready.
You have a spirit animal over there, and my co-host who just did the same thing. So to quote. When I signed on to write a book about America's most iconic road food, I imagined drinking my way to milkshakes and sitting in chrome-trimmed cafes with swivel stools and sticky menus. Would it be burgers and corn dogs and soft serve day in and day out? Hey, my kids had no complaints. But the farther along I got on my journey, I realized Route 66 truly encapsulates the quirky eats and regional specialties that are deeply influenced by indigenous foodways and our country's history of settlement. It's beautifully written. It is beautifully laid out. It is a wonderful book for anybody who has a love of road trips, but also a love of making comfort where one can find it. Can you talk about the moment that I just read when you begin to realize something else is going on here rather than just a shake and a corn dog?
Yeah, so this project started 2 years ago. My editor approached me. He said the centennial was coming up, and would I want to write a book that honors the food of Route 66? Because there hasn't been a current book about the food in a really long time. There's lots about the cars, the history, the buildings, but not much about the restaurants that started there or that have shaped the highway or that still persevere today. And I wasn't even sure if it was doable because my first impression was, Route 66. Like, I'm just picturing, diners, drive-ins, and dumps the whole way. Like, I don't think I could make a cookbook about burgers and pies. But, it was almost 2 years of research that I spent on this book, and I realized how diverse the regions are. Route 66 goes across 8 states. It's roughly 2,400 miles. And along the way, the food is very much shaped by not only the region, but also the people who brought that food from wherever they came from to where they settled now. So I was quite surprised that there was authentic New Mexican food there and authentic Greek, authentic Italian. I even found a Filipino restaurant in the middle of nowhere, Illinois. And, this very much gave me a fresh perspective on what Americana really is. It's more than what we consider American food, but it's just this melting pot of different kinds of food that came from everywhere. And that really is what Americana is.
Well, yeah, and speaking of everywhere, it's Route 66 has always been about, stories and characters just as much as the food and what's along the way. So speaking of what's along the way, how did local chefs and family-run spots really shape the recipes you chose and the people?
Well, the people, it's interesting because a lot of these restaurants, the Route 66 is celebrating its centennial, but some of these restaurants have been there before Route 66 is ever a thing. They've been there for over 100 years. And so their menus have definitely evolved over time. It definitely evolved with society, so whereas a lot of these places in the very beginning in the 20s and the 30s, they started as lunch counters and, kind of casual fast food type joints for all the travelers and the truck drivers and even the soldiers during World War I. And over time, they've evolved into becoming more of a family-friendly restaurant that caters to all people with expanded menus. Some of them have turned into more sit-down nicer dining or fine dining spots. So there's just a huge variety in the restaurants, but also just in like one establishment, how they've changed over the decades.
One of the things, and I want to kind of give people a sense, and they really should get this book, all of you guys out there, because today, by the way, is National Men Should Make Dinner Day. I don't know if you guys know
Ooh,
that.
I celebrate that all year long.
Yeah, it is, and Dre and I were talking about it. Lindsay, it's also National Nacho Day. I kind of left that
celebrate
off the table.
that all year long as well.
I figured you did too. One of the things the book does is it kind of beautifully moves from state to state. It takes us from places that would be very iconically recognizable as parts of that state, but then it also includes places you might not expect to be part of that state. And it also makes a real effort to kind of lay out the physical framework of the geography of yearning, what it's like to actually move across time and space in here. How soon did you make a decision in regards to how you put this book together? Did it kind of emerge organically, or did you have to kind of plan it out, or were you a pantser on this one?
Well, as far as how the book itself is laid out, that was decided pretty early on because I knew that I wanted this to be more than a cookbook. It's very much like part armchair travel guide and part history book. And I wanted to bring people on this journey through Route 66 via the food. And that's why the chapters are by state, and you start in Illinois, which is considered the beginning of Route 66, and then you go westward all the way to Santa Monica, California. And when you look at the restaurants, they are in geographic order. So you can, technically you could actually follow the book and make your way down Route 66. As far as how I planned it, a lot of it, because I did a road trip last summer with my family, and we spent 10 weeks on the road. And a lot of it was winging it just because I didn't want to set a schedule and miss something else. Like there are quite a few hidden gems in the book. Like you definitely have the icons of Route 66, but there's places that are less familiar to people. And I wanted to leave time to explore and be surprised and to find these places that, not a lot of people know about.
Well, with that trip then, just a very simple, quick question. What surprised you most? What stood out most along the way? Or I guess surprise is a better word, making that on that journey. What was the biggest surprise?
I guess for me personally, the biggest surprise was how much I really enjoyed meeting hundreds of people and learning about the history of, this one highway in this country. Before I started, I knew very little about Route 66. I knew the surface stuff. But just really digging deeper into the history of why it existed, how it's changed over the years, how it got routed, how it affected all of the communities that were based off of it. There's this Pixar film that was made many years ago, and I watched it with my kids before we left on the trip because it is all about, it's fictional, of course, in cars, but it's about a town that became abandoned after the interstate was built, and that is very much a theme along Route 66 of, they used to be thriving, all of the towns along there, and now they're, some of them have become ghost towns, or some of them are just like population like hundreds or like in the low thousands, but they are still there, and they really do count on people getting off the interstate and taking a real road trip where you experience everything along the journey and not the final destination.
What I also thought was spectacular, and I just want to kind of add this because you were talking about the idea of meeting these people. You actually got a chance to meet relatives of people who were instrumental in getting the route declared a historic landmark. I mean, there were, in fact, people you met along the way whose traditions in their restaurants went back so far, they were able to say, yeah, my mom or my dad or my parents actually were part of the group of folks that petitioned the U.S. government to make Route 66, to make it iconic in both not just name and popular imagination, but to actually codify it in terms of iconography of the American roadway.
Yeah, what they did in Arizona and Seligman, designated that stretch into, I believe it is now considered like the longest uninterrupted stretch of original Route 66. It goes through Seligman, Arizona. But it's now, they got historic designation for that highway, and they really turned their town around, because it was pretty much on the verge of dying, because not only did they lose Route 66, they also lost the railroad. But after they had that historical designation for the highway, then they really clung onto that Route 66 theme and made it a destination. And when you go there, it's just like this a couple of blocks of one town in this like vast vista. It's really actually one of my favorite parts of the drive because it's so dramatic and scenic out there, but there's nothing else up there. So it kind of feels like you're coming up on an oasis.
By the way, really quickly, based on my own reading, I can't wait to actually make the French. I cook, by the way, so the idea of making French silk pie. But I got to tell you, one of my favorite things, I couldn't stop laughing from both these places. The French silk pie, by the way, at the Country Dove, and the Rack of Raccoon, or the Raccoon, I can't remember which one it is, over at the Roadkill Cafe. I mean, I can't wait because, and by the way, you couldn't ask for two very different looking places. Guys, just for your sake of sanity, I'm going to let you describe what these two different places look like. The Country Dove, which is just lovely, and then you get to the Roadkill Cafe, which is exactly what you would think it would look like. Tell folks about those two places.
So the Country Dove is this lovely tea house that it looks like, was it Victorian? It's like this old Victorian house that is along this one strip in Elk City, Oklahoma. And, it's got like the shutters and the covered porch. And when you walk in, it really feels like you're walking into your grandmother's house. So it's like very cozy, and the decor is like very old fashioned, but very comfortable and clean. And they turned this old house, which, old houses back in the day, there's like rooms, it's not like all open concept like we have now. And each room is filled with, well, first of all, the first floor is a cafe, like a tea room, where they actually do serve tea. And they also have a few dishes that they have like soup, and they have that French silk pie. And they have like little tables set up inside these small rooms. And then upstairs is their gift shop. But, it feels like you're going through somebody's house, exploring what they have in there. And you have like the kindest ladies working in the front, and the people who go there, a lot of them go there specifically for the French silk pie. Like they're there for like this experience. And when you contrast that with the Roadkill Cafe, this place is in Seligman, Arizona, it's pretty much what you picture it to be, where on the outside there's all of these these figures of all these random animals, and inside you also have them like hanging on the walls. But my favorite part of Roadkill Cafe is their menu, because when I was speaking with the owner, she she told me that for a long time people were stealing their menus because they loved it so much and they wanted it as a souvenir. And she felt like it was payback because, back in the day, she used to also take menus for souvenir. And it got so bad that they ended up just selling their menu in their gift shop to stop people from taking them. But their menu has names, like the Rack of Raccoon is the recipe that's in my book. But they also have, such delicacies like the opossum blossom and the no luck buck, the chicken that almost crossed the road, kids' favorite, splatter platter. So these are all real dishes. Clearly, you're not really getting like a rabbit or a raccoon.
No. By the way, the raccoon, guys, the Rack of Raccoon is it's ribs. I mean, you're fine. I mean, it's like it's the good stuff. But it's just like after I had been so charmed by the Country Dove, I have to tell you, I just kind of was going through. But this is all great stuff. Am I going? Imagine going to the Country Dove and then making your next stop the Roadkill Cafe. I said I got to ask her about this. It's not the next stop, but but you get the idea. I mean, that's the kind of whiplash you'd experience. It would just sounds like a great experience, both of them, though, in very unique ways, right?
They are, and they are so fun. Like, both of them are just totally different experiences. I loved both of them. And just meeting the people, like, I met both of the owners of these two restaurants, and they are, like, their stories are so wonderful. Because the Country Dove started off as, like, just a little gift shop. And then the owners were just decided one day, like, oh, I think we could maybe do a restaurant in here. And they're cooking out of this tiny Victorian-style kitchen, because it's a house that that their building is. And so what they do in there is pretty incredible with the space that they have and what they've turned it into.
Well, and speaking of pretty incredible, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, and then the Roadkill Cafe is part of, like, I call it like the Mother Road Empire, because the family itself, they own not just that Roadkill Cafe, but they also have a few other businesses in that town that cater to Route 66 travelers.
Well, so of course, I'm from Texas, so of course the big Texan stood out to me. I have been there, by the way, and again, leave it to Texas to make something insane, even more insane. They have the world famous 72-ounce steak challenge, of course, that you can do when you go there, and it's $72 to do it. You have to eat the whole thing. Just so you know, by the way, what comes with it. It's a 72-ounce steak, of course. It includes shrimp cocktail, baked potatoes, salad with roll, butter, and of course the 72-ounce steak. You have to eat the whole thing. You can't get up from your seat. You are allowed to, by the way, to cut into it. Make sure it's cooked to your liking before you set in. But nobody can help you. You have to sit where they tell you. Can't get up doing it. If you get sick, you lose. If you don't eat every single bite, you lose. It's insane. I'm not quite sure what you win. Do you know that, or is it you just win a pat on the back?
Yeah. So they actually put you up. When I did my trip last summer, that was actually the second time that I have been to the Big Texan, because I've also eaten there on, like, a prior road trip. But they put the competitors up on, or I guess it's a contestant. They put you up on a stage with the other people who are also taking the challenge.
So now you're you're shoving your face in your own squalor in front of everybody. Great.
Yeah, in front of everybody, where people can, like my own kids, they're, last summer they were 5 and 8 years old, and they thought it was the coolest thing, and they would be, like, hovering over, these people's shoulders, looking at them.
So bizarre.
And I think, when we were there that night, one person did manage to make it through that entire meal, and they got, like, a T-shirt. That's a grand prize.
An extra large.
Look at the benefit, though. If you finish, you won't have to pay because you'll be dead a half an hour later, so it'll all work out perfectly. Good God Almighty! I mean, I got to that place, Lindsay, and I'm like going, oh my God! And like, we know some championship eaters who would tell people, nope, not happening, not doing that. And the fact that people keep trying to do it is kind of amazing to me. Oh my God! Is there any place that you wish that is on your list in regards to, I've got to get back there sooner rather than later?
There were a lot of them. Yeah, it's so hard to pick. People ask me all the time, like, what's your favorite, or where would you go back to? But I liked so many of them for so many different reasons. Because, like, one of my favorites on this was Green Chili Kitchen. They were the first New Mexican restaurant in Yukon, Oklahoma. And we had, like, a really nice lunch there where, gosh, we ordered, like, a little bit of everything. We had the pozole, which is the recipe is in my book. We also had the green chili apple pie, which is divine. That was their grandma's recipe, and that is also secret family recipe in my book. But we also had, like, the Frito pie and a few other dishes there, and everything was just so authentic and stellar and cozy, and it was just, like, it tasted like it was homemade. So I loved Green Chili Kitchen. I also loved, in Tulsa, Oklahoma, I went to the Mother Road Food Market, or Mother Road Marketplace is what they call it, where there's, like, lots of different stalls. Some of them had food, some of them had merchandise. And I found Dr. Custom Bistro there. And they only had a stall at the time that I met them. They were turning out incredible Brazilian food. And the owners are Brazilian, and it's a family-run business. By the time I sensed my book off to the publisher, my manuscript there, Dr. Custom Bistro had moved into their own standalone location just on the corner, still on Route 66, with an expanded menu. And the recipe that they gave me are these Brazilian pastel, which is kind of like a big like pastry puff with savory fillings inside. And the crust is really bubbly and crisp. And the chef's special pastel was what he made for me that day. And oh my gosh, it was insane. Definitely one of the best meals that I had on my trip. Then, so I did this trip in reverse. I went from Santa Monica to Chicago because I live in Oregon, which neither endpoint is very close to Oregon. But we started in the west. We drove all the way east. And after, we passed the Midwest. By the time we got to Illinois, I had quite my fill of a lot of road food as well. Right. Things were really hearty and rich, and I was feeling I was definitely 20 pounds heavier, and I was kind of craving rice or just something different. And we were in this town called Pontiac, Illinois, which is very, very small. And I found right on an old section of Route 66 a restaurant that was newer, had only been there for a couple of years, and they served authentic Filipino street food. I was like, oh, that's different. Well, let's go check that out. It was also one of the best food that I had on the trip because I had the chicken adobo wings, which is in my book, but we also tried the pancit, the potbelly, the vegetables that they had. They have really creative different drinks, with the ume plum, and I was like, wow, this is really good considering there's nothing like it for miles around. You'd have to go to the next big city to find this kind of food.
Wow.
You're making all of our listeners in the chat very hungry. They're saying, by the way, Linda, people are driving and trying to pull off the road to get some food here. So whatever you're doing, it's working. You can all be a part of it. You can head over to gardenbetty.com to find out more about Sweet Linda and all her offerings. And you can get the book. It's out now, the Route 66 Cookbook, a great holiday gift for somebody. Great holiday gift for somebody who loves to eat and loves the road, which, by the way, is our entire audience, including ourselves. So, Linda, thank you so much for making time for us this morning. The Route 66 Cookbook, it can be yours. Best of luck to you moving forward and with the promotion of this, and hope to have you back. Maybe we can do some holiday cooking recipes with you soon.